Okay, hello everybody. My name's Jameson Chase Young, and this is Coins and History. Today I'm going over the 1878 Carson City. So since this is the most Wild West of coins, the most Wild West of years, I tried to pick the most Wild West story, and that's the Billy the Kid's uprise with the Lincoln County Wars. So please stick around for the end of that one. But in the meantime, the 1878 Morgan silver dollar. It's obviously a very special coin and lots of reasons, especially the Carson City. The 1878 Morgan silver dollar was the first year the Morgan silver dollar ever came out. And Carson City, not only is that mint kind of like looked at as like the true Wild West mint, but it only produced Morgans up until 1893, so there's a lot less of them in general. And the 1878 in general, it's relatively rare, but it's not rare enough to be, unless it's uncirculated, it's not rare enough to be like really sought after. But the 1878's total, there's around 22,758,000 of them made. The Philadelphia minted 10,508,800. And then the San Francisco mint minted 9,774,000. The Carson City mint minted 2,212,000. They said the New Orleans mint minted some, but the internet was very unclear on how many. But anyway, so the Carson City one is the most rarest one out of all the 1878s. So, I mean, I bought mine for a few dollars over spot. So if it's just like a regular circulated one, it's not a lot more expensive, but it is a little bit more rare, so it's probably a little more sought after, especially being from Carson City. And I've bought hundreds of Morgan silver dollars. Out of all the hundreds and hundreds of Morgan silver dollars I bought, I've only accidentally just bought one 1878 Carson City. My second Carson City from 1878 I intentionally picked out. So it's kind of rare to find them in just a big stack to just randomly pull one out. So they are pretty rare compared to other Morgan silver dollars, and they are definitely more sought after, being from the Carson City Mint and being the very first year that the Morgan silver dollar was ever made. But and then the Carson City Morgan silver dollar, they stopped making Morgan silver dollars in 1893. But Morgan silver dollars in general, 1878 to 1904, and then they had that off year in 1921. And obviously the Carson City Mint didn't make any in the mid to late 1890s, the 1900s, or the 1921. The 1878, it was obviously designed by George T. Morgan. Its composition is silver. It's 90% silver, 10% copper. Its weight is 26.73 grams, and it's silver 0.7734 ounces of silver. Its diameter is 38.1. Its edge is reeded. Its melt value is whatever the silver price is for that particular day. But yeah, the 1878s are, I think, kind of special because, that was like the height of the Wild West. And because, you only have 2 years of the Morgan silver dollars in the 1870s, and that's the 1878 and the 1879. And then speaking of the height of the Wild West, you have the Lincoln County Wars. What this is primarily famous for is the rise of Billy the Kid. It basically was, it was a war. It was a very small scale war, but we would probably call it like territorial gang violence. Basically, you had two ranchers. You had the big time ranchers, which would be like the Murphy Dolan ranchers, and then you had the Tunstall ranchers. They were the up and comers. And Billy the Kid, he would have been on the up and comers, the Tunstall ranchers. The Murphy Dolan ranchers, they owned a lot of land. They owned the store. They had a huge monopoly in this area. And this kind of started a rivalry because the Tunstall ranchers, they were up and comers, and the Murphy Dolan gang didn't like that. The older establishment / the Murphy Dolan gang was dominated by James Dolan, who operated a dry goods monopoly through the general store, referred to by the locals as the House. And then this English-born John Tunstall and his business partners, Alexander McSween, opened a competing store in 1876 with the backing of other businessmen and cattleman John Chisholm. And the whole thing began off of an insurance policy, which was on the Murphy Dolans were supposed to pay out, and they didn't want to the McSweeneys, and the Murphy Dolans didn't want to pay out. They said that the McSweeneys owed them, so they're just going to keep the money. And this was just one of several things that escalated the whole rivalry. The Dolan faction was allied with the Lincoln County Sheriff Brady and aided by the Jesse Evans gang. The Tunsil's gang they organized a posse called the Lincoln County Regulators. And that's what Billy the Kid was in on. It's a heavily portrayed, it's made popular with the movie Young Guns. That was part of the Tunsil, the up-and-coming ranchers. They made that the Lincoln County Regulators, and they actually made it after the Murphy Dolan gang. Yeah, after John Tunstall was murdered, that's when the Lincoln County Regulators were put together, because the Tunstals and other locals who were for the Tunstals gathered together, and they put this gang together. And for a while, like, each side had like lawyers and lawmen on their side. For a while, the Regulators were actually legally deputized. I think it was, obviously if you read through, it was a significantly easier to deputize. I think there'd be like one lawman, so if he needed help, he could just deputize regular people. And these Lincoln County Regulators, including Billy the Kid, were legally deputized, and they just kind of totally took advantage and used and abused that power. When they arrested some people that they felt were involved with the murder of John Tunsil, rather than turning them in, they executed them probably. According to them, they said that those guys tried to escape, but all of the ones that they arrested and were supposed to be turning in were shot and killed. And anyway, yeah, this started just a whole series of revenge killings going back and forth, back and forth. It even led to like many battles. And the Dolans, they had their equivalent of the Lincoln County Regulators. Their equivalent would have been called the Seven Rivers Warriors. But they also had the Jesse Evans gang and John Kinney gang. I think those were just regular outlaw gangs. And like I said, it escalated, but many battles. You had the Battle of Blazer Mills, and you had the gunfight at the Fritz Ranch. And you had the Battle of Lincoln, which I think was the biggest one, a several-day standoff where these guys were just shooting each other. Yeah, and, the aftermath of this was like nothing. I mean, after all this killing, the only thing that happened was it just kind of fostered a lot of distrust and animosity in the area. But, there were some amnesties handed out that never really led to much. There was some warrants handed out that never really led to much. Eventually, Billy the Kid was eventually killed by Pat Garrett, supposedly. I'll get around to his death when I do my 1881 silver dollars. But yeah, the casualties, they said on the Murphy Dolan side, that's the big rich ranchers, 15 killed, 11 wounded. And then on the Billy the Kid, the Regulator side, the John Tunsil side, 8 killed, 12 wounded. So the whole thing is the most stereotypical Wild West thing, and the fact that it like highlighted how wild the Wild West was, and things were just kind of completely out of control. There were posses being put together right and left. And Billy the Kid, to tell you the truth, reading through it, I don't know if he was any better or worse than anybody else, but I think Billy the Kid just gets a lot of credit because of his super young age, but he wasn't necessarily any better or worse than a lot of these killers and gunmen. It was just crazy. And that crazy world is the world that this 1878 Morgan silver dollar Carson City comes from, not too far from there, Nevada and New Mexico. So it's super interesting. I hope you found it super interesting. If you enjoyed this video, please like the video and please subscribe to my channel. This is Coins and History. My name's Jameson Chase Young. Thank you for watching.